Also joining us today is Professor Meg Russell, Professor of British and Comparative Politics and Director of the Constitution Unit at University College London. Hello, Meg.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good to have you both with us. Let me ask you, first of all, Lord Fowler, what do you make of the plans that we are hearing for Boris Johnson to include up to 30 new peers in his resignation honours list?
Well, I think they're potentially disastrous, frankly. I mean, the fact is that the aim of those of us in the House of Lords, by which I exclude the government, is to reduce the numbers in the House of Lords. And what are we getting from Boris in his last hurrah is to increase them. And as far as I can see, what he is going to do is he's going to have the resignation honours. That's one part of the list. Then there's another list of the normal political honours that go through. So, no, 30 could be a Conservative number. I think that is, I think we've got to the stage when we're having to ask whether the appointment system in the House of Lords is fit for purpose.
Meg, there is a tradition of this, isn't there, that the outgoing Prime Minister can draw up a resignation honours list, and this won't be the first time it's proved controversial.
Well, that's right. But of course, they vary in size, and some of them have been quite modest, and a 30-person list would be quite a long list. And I think it's very important to put it within this wider context that Lord Fowler has been talking about, that the House of Lords is far too big. This has been controversial for a very long time. I think I first published a report on this in 2011. And Lord Fowler is being perhaps a little modest by not mentioning that he did an enormous amount when he was Lord Speaker to try and get a grip on this problem. There was a committee set up to look at how to manage down the size of the House of Lords. It made recommendations that it should be managed down so that it was no bigger than the House of Commons, and so that for every new peer put in, two should leave. Now, Theresa May went along with those recommendations, and Boris Johnson has, in his typical way, when it comes to almost any kind of constitutional norm or respect for checks and balances in our constitution, driven a coach and horses through it. So Boris Johnson is a bit of a special case, and this idea of these two lists, I think, is really, really problematic. And I would actually question whether he has the right to make some of those recommendations, because he is now a caretaker prime minister, which means that he shouldn't be doing big things. And the potential to put in lots and lots of members of the House of Lords is, as Lord Fowler says, very damaging of the institution. It's a great sort of irony that the prime minister's control is such that it's the action of the prime minister that damages the reputation of Parliament. We need to defend the reputation of Parliament, and the executive should not be able to trash that reputation by over-appointing to it.
He won't be the first Prime Minister, though, to be accused of this, will he, Meg? I mean, David Cameron was accused of cronyism when he nominated about 50 people altogether for various different honours. Tony Blair, of course, had the cash for honours scandal. We can go back to Wilson's lavender list. These things always seem to be mired in controversy.
Well, yes, this is true, but this is why we need change. I mean, Lord Fowler asked whether the system is fit for purpose. I would say, frankly, it isn't. And there have been lots of proposals over recent years. I agree with you. David Cameron's appointments were excessive. Tony Blair's appointments arguably were excessive. This is why we need regulation in the system. We need a cap on the size of the House of Lords. Very unusual around the world to have a parliamentary chamber with no limits on its size. And then we need a formula for appointing people to keep it within balance. And another of the problems, as you referred to, with these mooted appointments from Johnson is they will be disproportionately Conservative. Now, the Conservatives they have nearly 100 peers more than Labour in the House of Lords. When the Conservatives came to power in 2010, Labour had only about 20 more than the Conservatives. So the risk is you pack the place with Conservatives, and then you get perhaps a Labour government, which is massively outnumbered in the Lords, and then you get another ratcheting upwards. So we desperately need to get a grip on this situation and tighten the regulation. We cannot have a situation any longer where the Prime Minister can appoint as many as he likes with whatever party balance he likes. It's damaging to Parliament.
Meg, just very briefly, if you could, is it possible that some of Boris Johnson's planned appointments could be blocked? We're hearing that Lord McFall is talking to Lord Norton of Louth, a Tory peer and constitutional expert, about a bill to try to basically ensure that this could perhaps be stopped.
Well, I think Lord Norton's bill is very sensible. It would regulate the appointment system, but that's not going to happen very quickly. It's certainly not going to happen by the time Boris Johnson is looking to hand over his list in the autumn. There is the absolute final blocking point is, of course, the palace, because it's the monarch who appoints, not the Prime Minister. He recommends. The Prime Minister has, I'm afraid, several times brought the Queen into political controversy through his prorogation of Parliament, and through just a couple of weeks ago, threatens that there might be an early general election. So I think once again the palace is being put in a rather difficult position here as to whether to accept these nominations.